One, you can fall from excessive heights, depending on where the light bulb is. And two, this is the big one, you get electrocuted. And here at Zachary, this is one of the main things we work with, or work around with. In this demonstration, the pull string will act as our faulty light bulb, so we don't have another light bulb. So, just keep in mind, we're pretending that it's faulty. Also, we will explain the proper steps in lockup tagout to change out the light bulb in a safe manner. So you ask yourself, why is LOTO important? LOTO protects us from potential energies that may be present in machines or equipment that we are working on. If we don't properly isolate, properly release stored energies, successfully verify or communicate with coworkers, safety mishaps can occur. It's important for everyone at our site to be aware of the principles, functions, and concepts of LOTO, as this process can be applied anywhere, including at home. The cards that we're passing out, I don't know if we passed them out yet, they're just a good reference point, so if you just have it in the back of your pocket, but always check with supervision to make sure LOTO procedures are being followed correctly for the specific equipment or machinery you are working on. So today, Nick is going to be our LOTO coordinator, and our authorized person is going to be Roderick. Troy and Jacob are going to be the infected employees, which they're going to be the ones working on changing out the light bulb. So step one in LOTO is prep work. Zachary policies require every LOTO procedure to have an authorization. An authorized person has to request LOTO via permit. The authorized person is someone who is qualified to request and install LOTO as directed by the proper tagging authority, which is the LOTO coordinator. This is the permit that you have to get, when you start LOTO. The LOTO process covers a few things, and Nick and Rod are going to go over.
The LOTO coordinator and the authorized personnel are in charge of identifying the isolation points. In this case, we have a light switch, a breaker, a disconnect switch. And if we wanted to, we could take it one step further and lock out the receptacle in. By identifying the isolation points, we're also identifying the energies involved. In this case, our main energy is electrical, but LOTO can be applied to any machine with any type of energy: thermal, gravitational, pneumatic, hydraulic, or steam. The next step is communication with employees. This means following up with all affected employees. The affected employees are those whose job required him or her to perform maintenance or servicing functions on machinery under LOTO. It also includes those jobs who require him or her to work in an area where those activities are being conducted. Step 2 is shutdown. If necessary, we set the machine at a certain phase in the cycle where it may be safer to perform the work. We shut down via normal procedures. In this case, we're going to shut down using the light switch, and we're going to isolate using the breaker. Step 3 would be isolation. Shutdown just means turning off the machine, but isolation prevents the possibility of energy to flow back through the system. The actual locking tag or applied to isolation points, which are known as energy isolating device. In this scenario, our breaker would be that. These devices physically prevent the transmission or release of energy. Other devices include disconnects, valves, blocks, and so forth. Roger will go ahead and shut down our light switch and isolate our breaker. He will do so by using his non-dominant hand, looking away and stepping away in case there's a fault in the breaker, in case a spark were to occur or some type of small explosion.
All right, so at this point in the process, even though that demonstration took a minute or two, at this point the process has actually gone through a lot of different steps, right? So they've already gone through verifying where all the isolation points are, what are the hazardous energies, things like that. They've gotten the authority to do the lockout. So different things that happen, shutting it down, isolating it. The next step would be to actually apply the lock and tag. So for this process, we're going to use the box. So the box here, actually, it has a couple different functions. So in this particular case, we're using it for the purpose of not damaging the breaker. So for example, we have 4 people here that could potentially lock on, right? If we were to put a hasp on that one breaker, it could be a lot of weight on it. So we don't want to do that. So we're going to use the box just as a, to make it a little easier on that device. The box can also be used, of course, as a group type of method where, if you got maybe electricians, you got building integration, different types of folks, that box can be used as a group method, and each hasp can represent a crew, and each crew can then lock onto their own hasp. So the reason this is so important is because this is where these communication errors occur. So here we want everybody to go ahead and lock on. They're all going to sign on, but we want everybody to have their own lock as well and go ahead and sign on and verify each other, make sure everybody's safe. So right now they're going to go ahead and demonstrate that. Roderick has a lockout device. So this is what we use for a breaker typically. There's all kinds of different versions. If you have a breaker, that's what that would look like. If you have valves, whatever you have, different things that you can do, but basically it's going to physically lock out the breaker, and so that way nobody can come in and accidentally turn it on. So go ahead, Roger, you can go ahead and do that. At this point too, affected employees, Troy and Jacob, they're going to witness the process, right? Because they want to verify that what they're doing is safe. So they're going to give him a good glare, make sure that they see what he's doing and everything is safe. So and that way, again, it's just everybody's watching each other and no one's doing the work unsafely. And that way they're comfortable with what they're doing. So apply the lock device. Once he does that, then he's going to apply his own lock. As the authorized employer with his tag. So, has his name, his contact information on it, all that good stuff. So, and then one key for lock, right? And go ahead and apply that to the breaker itself. All right. So once he does this, is that it? No, right? So now that he has that on there, he's gonna keep his key. It's not over yet. The next step is gonna be releasing stored energy. So Roger's gonna talk a little bit about that. He's going to hang on to his key for now. We're going to use the box here in a minute, but he's going to go over some of that. Wait for you guys.
Released and stored energy. Stored and residual energy must be dissipated and restrained. In this scenario, there's no other potential energies besides the electrical. In other scenarios, this could mean bleeding lines, grounding electrical components, releasing stored air pressure, and blocking machinery. Affected employees are always given the opportunity to witness the process. In this scenario, there is no residual energy, but in others there might be. Step 6. Try, test, and verify. The final step should always involve some type of try or test. This is vital because it ensures the lotto has been performed correctly. Since both the receptacle and the light are on one circuit, we can use a meter to check the voltage in the receptacle.
And also at this step, the affected employees, which is Troy and Jacob, they can witness the process as well. So Roderick he's getting the voltmeter, turning it on. To make sure it's properly working, he's going to ohm it out. So that's verifying that it works. So now he's going to get his prongs and stick them inside the receptacle to make sure there's no voltage inside the meter. And it's at 0, so he just checked, he just verified that there's no electricity going through that circuit. And now once it's verified and the affected employees are comfortable with it, then we'll go ahead and Roger will place his key inside the box, and then Troy and Jacob will put their keys, lock them on the box. They'll have their name and number on it, you know, just in case, to get a hold of them. And then after they do that, they'll sign on the sign-on sheet. So now, once they sign on the paperwork and all that stuff, they're ready to get to work. So now, Troy and Jacob, they'll come over here. They're gonna work on the light bulb, which they're gonna pull on the pull string to turn the light back on. Now we have a new light bulb on. So now when they get completed with the work, Troy and Jacob, they'll communicate with Roderick, telling him, notifying that the work is complete. So now Roger will get it, and he'll communicate with Nick. That way they can go over and we can do the we can do the next step, which is startup. After work is complete, you know, safe startup also requires a few steps. You know, we'll inspect the area, make sure, you know, these guys, when they get done with their work, that they got all their tools, and turn on the tools, because when they do the startup process, they don't want them to, you know, come back and, you know, miss a tool and they stick their hand somewhere and they get electrocuted, you know, on accident. So, you know, make sure the tools are good, clear of everything. After that, they'll communicate with Roderick and say, hey, you know, we're done, tools are up, now it's time to begin the startup process. So now, once that is complete, Roger will come and we'll do the lotto removal. We ensure that shutdown controls in the off position, which is our light switch. It's in the off position. Now each person, or Troy and Jacob, is remove their locks from the box. And then after that, we'll do the reverse isolation, which will flip the breaker, flip the switch, and then we'll have power back on. So Troy and Jacob, go ahead and communicate with Roderick and demonstrate, you know, reverse startup.
All right, so as they're doing the reverse isolation, is there any questions at this point? Any questions at all? Go ahead, Kev.
Stop work, pull the meter. The outlet.
Pull the meter. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do that before. Remember, I have to check with him. I'll sign off and then I'll pull it off.
You're jumping ahead. We're not there yet.
All right, they took their locks off. Now Roger will come over here and communicate with Nick. That way they can start the process of taking off their locks and to turn the light, to get power back on. They check the voltmeter, make sure there's no voltage in there. It's still zero. So he pulls the meter out. Just to keep him a lockbox, and now he's gonna take his lock off. And now he's gonna put the breaker back on. And while he's doing that, he's gonna step aside with his non-dominant hand and look away, and then flips it on. All right. And then now he comes over here and flip the switch, and we got our power back on. In other scenarios, you know, if something happens, you know, say with the breaker, we have to work on the breaker, change out a breaker. We can go a step further. We can go to the disconnect switch and lock it out there to work on the breaker. Or if something happens with the disconnect switch, then we can, you know, use our other power source, which is our plug. You know, apply this lockout takeout mechanism on the plug. That way, if we need to switch out the disconnect switch. Also, another, I want to point out, you know, when they're taking their keys out, it's important that they keep up with them. Because if they leave the job site and we have to take the locks off or something, they're not here, well, we can't take the locks off. We have to, you know, try every means to get a hold of that person to get that lock off. And if we can't get that, then we got to go, you know, higher ups, you know, General Foreman communicates with his, you know, superintendent, all that stuff, and they got to fill out a lot of paperwork just to get that lock off. So it's important, you know, when you're in Lotto and you have your lock on, make sure you keep up with your key. So that was pretty much, you know, our demonstration for lockout tagout. Just want you to keep in mind, we're just simply, you know, making y'all aware of lockout tagout, how it's used. We are in no way, you know, certifying y'all to use Lotto. It's just to make y'all aware, but y'all still need to go through the proper training to get the proper certifications to do it. We're just simply showing you how to change the faulty light bulb. So, you know, hopefully we can come to an agreement that the next time one of us must use Lotto, whether it's changing a light bulb or working on de-energized equipment, to make sure we do it right the first time and follow all the safety procedures for Lotto. You know, don't take shortcuts because the job must get done. And if it's not done correctly, you or somebody you're working with won't get that second chance to see tomorrow or be able to cherish the, you know, those special moments with your loved ones.